What's up? This is Mang, and I'm going to do my long overdue guide to swarming, Bard swarming in Everquest P99. So let's go over some quick setup. First off, I am on a level 34 Bard. I'm in Firiona, my favorite swarming zone, and I'm going to show you a pull at the end of this, but first I just want to show you how I set up my character. Right now I'm grouped with my AFK Enchanter alt to power level them. So first things first, you only really use 3 songs. Sometimes you use a 4th to pull. I have Cello's Accelerando, obviously. I have Chords of Dissonance, Denon's Disruptive Discord. Those are 2 PB AOEs. And then I have Fufels, I use to pull sometimes. Hymn of Restoration in case you get hurt, whatever. Sometimes Corpse Locate Song when you die. I have stop song macros for my 5 songs here, so it's just stop song first line, cast the number, and that means that I don't need to press a song twice, like Alt 1-1, to turn songs on or off. I can just hit the button once, here's cellos, and then I can hit a different button, and it just switches to a new song. So that helps your hands not have to hit buttons as often. There is a little bit of a delay baked into the stop song part, so you have to wait maybe 3.2 seconds per song for it to work, but it feels good. I have range attack, currently bound to my E key in the 9th slot here, and I have shurikens. I have a bag of a bunch of shurikens so that I can throw them. You can have cellos playing and throw shurikens while cellos is playing without stopping your song cast, which is way safer than body pulling, and it's just convenient. It's not as long range as casting Fufels, for example, but it is really handy to be able to throw shurikens with a much faster cooldown than songs, and I don't think the range is that big a deal. Finally, I have a slash lock and hide corpse all built into one macro here. I don't know why they're lines 2 and 3 instead of lines 1 and 2, but this is going to give me 1, my location, and 2, it's going to tell me hiding all existing corpses except yours. So when you're killing a ton of monsters, and I plan to kill them up here, hitting this button will make them disappear. And that way I don't accidentally loot them if I right click them, and I'll get to that. Finally, the last thing about setting up is I have a key bind that lets me strafe run. So you might know what strafe running is. When you run forward, you run forward. When you strafe left and right, you move straight left and right. You can do these at the same time, and you're now running forward and strafing for a combined like 115% move speed. This is straight up faster than just running forward, and that's a really big deal, and that's actually pivotal for how I personally like to swarm kite. I swarm kite with no movement speed enhancements whatsoever. I don't play cellos, I don't have Spirit of the Wolf, I don't use J-boots, I just strafe kite, and I will explain this further. But to set this up, I have 3 things bound to the same key. Move forward is alternate bound to my apostrophe here, right by my enter key. Move right is also bound, and strafe right is all bound to this apostrophe key. Now when I hold that apostrophe key, which is also, by default I think it's bound to say, the apostrophe key, but I've unbound that. When I hold this button, it makes me run forward in a right circle, which looks silly and goofy. But if I press enter while I'm doing this, all of a sudden I'm locked into a front right strafe run, and I'm typing text down here. Well, I don't want to type text, so I'll press enter again to cancel it, but you'll notice I'm still locked into a strafe run. And in order to cancel this, I have to press like move forward or turn left right, whatever. I have to press a key to break my strafe run. But the point here is I can roll my hand from this apostrophe enter enter, and now I'm locked into a strafe run, and my hands are off the keyboard. I'm just strafe running. So it's kind of like pressing numlock to auto run forward, but instead of pressing numlock to auto run forward, I'm pressing this 3 bind strafe run lock. And I want to do this because I need to run at strafe run speed, not normal speed, so that I'm outrunning my monsters when I swarm kite. The plan is going to be to get a stack of monsters, have them chasing me, lock a strafe run, and then start running in circles around them, and then pulse my damage songs instead of cellos, and let Celos fall off. And this sounds crazy, but once Celos does fall off, I'm going to be just barely outrunning the monsters. Enough that I can still outrun them, and they won't catch me, and my songs will be landing on them. I can turn a little bit. It's a nice big wide circle, but you'll see this in action. That is how I swarm kite, without any movement speed whatsoever. I don't have J-boots, I don't drink soap pots, I don't have a druid friend, I don't play cellos. I only play PB/AOE songs. So let's get right into it. I'm at the, actually let me show the map first. Here's my NParse map of Firiona Vi. Okay, so here's the map for Firiona Bay. I am in the northeast corner by the Swamp of No Hope zone line, and my plan here is going to be to run south and swoop and pull everything down to sort of this midline, and then come back up north and kill it all. And that should be about 70 monsters. Am I going to naturally aggro this Snarler? Jeez. Calm down, buddy. Now, I have the option to do a couple bonus loops. You can go all the way down to the coast and pull a bunch of Drollvargs down here. You can go into the tunnel and pull the Drollvargs in this little city. I could do one super big loop where I do all of that and probably get over 100 monsters. I think the sweet spot is like 70 to 80 monsters. So it really depends on whether or not there's competition, whether or not you just finished a pull and not everything's respawned or whatever. But you don't really want to spend 30 minutes doing one pull. It's better to get into a rhythm of just getting the high density clusters of Drollvargs. You can pull pirates. They're generally a little lower level. They also don't drop canines. You don't want to pull goblins or frogs because a lot of them are casters or are sewed, and you don't want to have to drop your whole train. And if that does happen, I can show you how you can potentially fix that. But basically, let's get a pull rolling. I'm going to switch this back to my EQ stream. Hopefully that worked fine. Alright, so I'm going to find a Drollvarg, and I don't really care what level they are. Even if they're blue or dark green, I'm still going to pull them because they drop canines. And I'm going to press my hotkey here for throwing shuriken, which is bound to E. And I have a bunch of shurikens. And the shuriken range is only like 50. It's much smaller than even short range songs, but it doesn't really matter. It's much safer to throw a shuriken than it is to body pull. So like here's a shaman I don't want to pull. I can skirt around him and I can just throw a shuriken from over here and pull this guy, and that's nice and safe. If I really want to pull a monster that is kind of far away and I want to not necessarily save a shuriken, but if I want to pull him from a long distance, I can play Fufels, which has a 200 range, is about this far, and that works just fine. But shurikens are faster, and you can leave cellos running while you pull, so it's like big quality of life there. Most of the time, I do want to pull Drollvargs by just socialing them. So I'm going to have this train of Drollvargs chasing me, and I basically want to just drag them through big swaths of other Drollvargs to try and pull them as fast as possible. Now they're only going to be running at normal move speed, and that is sort of the limit of how fast I can do a pull. You can't really outrun your monsters too much, because if you get 1,000 locks away, they'll automatically leash and stop chasing you. You'll drop off their aggro list entirely. So the goal here is going to be to just sort of swoop and zigzag through the zone, grabbing Drollvargs. You don't really want any other kind of monster. Pirates are fine. If you get a frog, you have to hope that it's unsewed, and you have to be concerned about it potentially socialing other frogs. Same thing with a goblin. There are some spots that you learn over time of where frogs just always hang out, and you just want to stay away from them. These rocks, there are always frogs down there. So I am going to path through, and if I grab one of these, I got stunned. Grab one of these, they'll social the other. And then I have this line now of Drollvargs chasing me, and so I don't have to run into this Snarler. I can run near him, and he'll get picked up by the line of guys following me. And so you can use that as kind of a net to pull other mobs. Even if you were invis, once you get Cello's Travel Song level 51, for example, you can be invis the whole time and just social pull monsters if you wanted to do that, which is kind of an important mechanic in Burning Woods, for example, when you swarm there. This is about the midway point of how far south I like to go. I like to go to the road, and I'll show you what I mean. But this house has a bunch of Drollvargs in them. I'll definitely want to pull that. I'm keeping an eye on how far away I am from the Drollvargs. You basically should always be able to see them, otherwise you're at risk of leashing them from too far away. My equipment, by the way, I can talk about while I'm doing some of this pull. My equipment is garbage. Bars don't really need gear in order to swarm Kite. Some things are helpful, and some things are completely pointless. People love their lambent armor and their stamina and dexterity and whatever. It means nothing. The only things that actually matter, I have an eye patch for ultra vision. Some of this is just vendor loot that automatically went onto my ears when I looted Drollvargs. This is a necklace from a Drollvarg. Ultra vision on eye patch is nice just because it helps you see frogs a little better. I am a half elf, and that still isn't perfect ultra vision. What else? I have an HP ring. That's nice, but I'm almost certain it's never saved my life. And then I have instruments. So I have a walrus drum, which is like 1,000 plat. I have a lute of the Gypsy Princess, which is like 50 plat, and is basically the best loot you're going to buy with money. The nicer ones are No Drop off of Inner Rock and the one from Vishan's Peak, Silverwing. And then I have an Immaculate Shellhorn, and this is sort of the splurge item here. Immaculate Shellhorn is pretty rare, and I think people sell them for like 3,000 or 4,000 plat. It's from Siren's Grotto. And it is a 24 mod brass instrument. I don't care about the stats at all. It's got the highest modifier, just like the one from Plane of Sky. But, the stats basically mean nothing. It has a little bit of minus strength on it, which is annoying in case it accidentally encumbers you. But having a higher modifier is better. But again, none of this really matters that much. You get slightly better performance from your songs. A conch shell horn is a 21 mod, might even be 22 mod, and that thing's like 50 plat. Those things are common in Siren's Grotto. This fancy horn, yes, I kill things very slightly faster. The mechanics for this, by the way, are 5% effectiveness for every one instrument mod. So a normal horn that is 20 basically means that you're doing 200% damage, and then because it's a 24, it means I'm doing 240% damage. So that's essentially 20% more damage than using a basic vendor horn, which is, it's good. It adds up, and in my opinion, if you're going to swarm a lot, it's worth investing in a nicer horn. But by no means is this the reason that I'm successful. Swarm kiting is one of those nice things that it's really all about your hand skills, your muscle memory, your ability to pull mobs and understand the mechanics of things. It has essentially no bearing on your gear, and in fact the vast majority of my gear slots here are just completely naked. What else is there to say? So I'm going to pull my train of Drollvargs here, which are up on this hill. I'm going to pull them through this house that has a bunch of Drollvargs. I myself am not going to run through the house. I don't want to do that. But I do want to pull the mobs. So I'm going to have my train run through the house, and I'm going to sit on the other side of it, so that as they run through, my sit aggro increases the range of pulling monsters. And so they will run through the house for me, and I don't need to get, dangerously close to a bunch of monsters to pull that stuff. The sit trick works in a couple contexts. You can just sit near a mob and get it to pull faster, or you can use it in order to pull light green mobs that don't give you XP. You can force them to be aggressive to you, even if they don't give you XP. The sit aspect of the threat just makes them guaranteed to be aggressive. Alright, so we're going to make this train of mobs come through and social this. And I have the option of going even further south and going into these woods. It really depends on whether or not there are players trying to pull mobs here. I don't want to monopolize all of the mobs, but the vast majority of the mobs in Firiona go unkilled because there are just so many monsters. So I will go ahead and wrangle a bunch of these. There are some Firiona NPCs, like this pilgrim guy. We're going to train the crap out of him, and he's just going to get absolutely murdered when all of the Drollvargs see that he's damaged one of their friends. Here is a goblin caster we do not want to pull. I think those are shaman types, and they do root you and sow themselves and stuff. They're not fun, and I don't even have charm on this bard. They're high enough level to have learned it, but I've bought like almost no songs on this guy. My spellbook is, pretty barren even at level 34, and he's been as high as level 43. Most songs just don't matter. And charm can get you out of some sticky situations. You accidentally pull a caster, you charm it, you send it into your death ball. But I don't have that option, and so we're just going to play more carefully and not pull things we don't need to. Let's see. I do see some people down here, so I don't really want to bother them and steal their monsters. I'll probably just go ahead and swing north again right now. Is that a pirate? Looks like a pirate. So this is a pilgrim, and she is going to foolishly aggro a Drollvarg, so I'm going to go ahead and drag my whole train here through her, and she'll die. There's my train. It looks like we got caught up on a butterfly, so we'll kill them too. It can be annoying if they accidentally are aggroed on one of these monsters and then you don't notice and they're fighting it for a while and you get mobs that are leashed, or all of your mobs run backwards because they get sudden low HP aggro. You want to be able to control your train and know where it is at all times so that you aren't confused and don't leash it. So sometimes going south like this is more of a headache than it's worth, but there is good mob density down there, so I do like to swing down that far. These pirates are still blue to me at 34, so I'm going to pull them, but my preference is just Drollvargs most of the time. I like this house, which I've already pulled, and I do like going further west to the other house, but I have a nice stack already. Considering pulling the tunnel too. Let's go look at the tunnel. My train's over there, so I have a good amount of range I can run before leashing anything. This is the tunnel on the far east side of the zone, and at first it can feel dangerous going into the tunnel. But if no one's pulled it, it is a good 15-20 Drollvargs. So depending on how successful your pull already is, that extra time of going in and out of the tunnel can totally be worth it. I'm going to let my kite catch up to me a little bit, pull one or two guys, and then we'll drag them over to the tunnel. A couple weird things about the tunnel. You want the Drollvargs to walk straight down the center of it. You don't want to accidentally glitch them in the walls here. It is possible to make Drollvargs fall under the world, in which case they'll still be chasing you. You just don't know that until they suddenly pop up out of the world, and that's not fun. You'll notice I just hopped there in order to give myself a little bit of extra separation in case they happen to aggro and try and bash me right off the bat. In my opinion, the hop is a nice little safety net of extra distance, and sometimes it feels like you dodge a bash with it. So that's a neat little trick. That is a Goblin Raider, who I theoretically could pull. He's probably not sewed, but I don't want the extra risk of him socialing other goblins that might be casters. So I'm still not going to pull him. Alright, so you see how this snarler here is in this house. I'm going to just go ahead and drag these mobs through the house, and he'll get pulled. I can throw a shuriken way up here, pull these guys. There are several Drollvargs that are in these rooms in the middle too, and it would be nice to pull them. So I'm going to try and get these guys off the edge, and then let my social net behind me. What is that? That's a Drollvarg. Okay, weird. Grab him, grab this guy, and then if I turn the corner, I can either peek my head in here and try and throw a shuriken really fast, or I could drag them through the wall and get them to pull. Alright, so let's grab this guy. And now I have this nice kite of Drollvargs. I want to kind of ball them up again so that I can make them run down the center of the path, because I don't want them to fall into the world. So I'm just going to do one quick loop around them, and then run backwards. And I want them to go nice straight up the ramp. And they'll run right through this goofy statue. I see a couple pirates in the middle too. I like how you get to see basically every frame of their animation stacked on top of each other. This weird waterfall mega hybrid. The Ultra Drollvarg. Oh yeah. Alright, so then I think we're headed north. We have a nice pull. We're going to try and look around for any other loose ones. But you'll notice just how barren the zone feels, because they're all in my kite. We'll grab this guy. He just warped. That's fun. Okay, don't want a frog. Guess we'll grab this guy instead, because he didn't warp. Alright, I could grab this Battlemaster, because there are very few goblins between here and the end of the zone. I don't really care to swing back. I want to show you the safest way to cross the Frogger gap here. I'm going to double back and get this Battlemaster. You can go straight through the middle and just sort of look for frogs. They hop both from the left and the right, which is annoying. It's literally like the game Frogger. What I like to do is run up this hill. Nice, gentle sloping hill up here. I get all the monsters to come up to the top of the hill, and now I'm confident that they're not going to leash. And you can easily see the frogs that are up here on the top of the hill. And sometimes there's a Drollvarg or two. And we're going to pull them as well by socialing our kite through them. But then you can gradually look down this hill here and very, very easily see if there are any frogs and dodge them accordingly. If you're just running through the Frogger alley, you're way more likely to accidentally pick up a frog because it's behind a tree or a rock than if you just use this hill trick. Running up that hill and then coming down it to finish your path is way better, because there are frogs flipping everywhere in this little section. And then you hit what I like to call good grass, this nice light green grass. Basically mobs never walk down here. So once you've gotten to this far, you're not worried about any more pathers at all. So I have a nice kite, and they're going to follow me in a straight line. I want to line them up. Personally, I like this flat area here as my kill spot. So my AFK enchanter is parked on this hill right up here, and I'm going to try and kill the mobs in the middle of this field. So I'm going to stand here, wait for them to get kind of close, turn 90 degrees to the right, and lock my strafe run. And then I'm going to start pulsing Denon's Disruptive Discord, because it's the AOE song that lands most easily. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to my horn, and I'm going to cursor my guitar. And now I have no move speed enhancements whatsoever, right? I'm just strafe running, and I'm pulsing Denon's Disruptive Discord. The monsters are just about to get close enough to me that they are going to be hit by this. and I'm holding right click and just doing these small little left turns with my mouse, right? And now that I'm close enough, you're going to see they're going to get hit. I just saw them on the very edge of my screen right there, and I'm landing Denon's Disruptive Discord, right? I'm not dead. I'm still outrunning them, and in fact, if I stop turning, I will literally outrun them. Strafe running is faster than mobs at normal move speed. Right? Wow, that was a bad roll. Almost everything resisted. Once I've landed a Denon's Disruptive Discord, I'm going to move on to trying to land Chords of Dissonance, which has a smaller AOE range. Denon's Disruptive Discord will last for like 15 seconds, right? And once I get one of those to apply while wearing a horn, it's doing as much DPS as possible. So I'm going to switch to getting a Chords of Dissonance to try and land on 25 monsters. You can only have a dot rolling on 25 monsters at a time. So I have several attempts to try and land Chords of Dissonance before my Denon's falls off. And there I got one, so I'm going to switch back to Denon's, I'm going to click my horn back on, and I'm going to go ahead and reapply my Denon's. And in my opinion, landing Denon's is very easy. Landing Chords is a little harder, or the tolerance for safety is a little tighter. So I spend more time playing Chords of Dissonance than I do Denon's, because I don't want to get so close that every one of my Chords of Dissonance lands. I just want it to land occasionally. And once it does land, and I hit a bunch of monsters with it, I switch back to making sure my Denon's is on everybody. And so I'm just going to casually alternate between pressing 2 and 3 here. And if I get a Denon's to land on everybody, I'll switch to Chords, and I'll put my guitar back on, and I'll try and get Chords to land on everybody. And you can see the monsters are right there on my screen, and I'm constantly outrunning them at strafe speed. They're always just a little bit behind me. Now, I've slain my first Drollvarg, you can see in my combat log, which means once I pull this full U-turn, you're going to see his body. Right? Now, I really don't want to right-click on him. So before I get there, I'm going to hit spacebar, which is currently bound to my lock/hide corpse macro, which makes his corpse go away, which makes him un-right-clickable, which means I don't accidentally loot him, which means I don't kill myself by looting monsters. And here, every time you see a corpse, I'm going to smack my spacebar, and I'm going to make their corpses disappear so that I don't loot them. And that's basically all of swarm kiting. You land Chords of Dissonance, you pulse these left-hand clicks, these right clicks dragged to the left slightly to make you go in a circle. Once a Chords of Dissonance lands on a good number of monsters, you switch to doing a Denon's. Denon's is much, much easier to land. And it's a game of patience, really. If you're not getting hit by the monsters, then you're not dead. And you'll win eventually, again, because Denon's is so easy to land. Would it be nice to have Chords of Dissonance applied the whole time? Yeah, of course. Right? But what's the most important is just that you're not getting hit by the monsters. So, if you're having any frustration with making sure your songs land, just remember that you are winning as long as you aren't dead. And because I'm in a group and my enchanter alt is sitting there on the hill pretty nearby, they're getting an XP split. And I started this when my bard here was at level 30 and they were at level 20. And after the first pull, they were level 24. They gained 4.5 levels or something. It only took a couple more pulls for them to get to 29, and I think they're at least level 30 by now. But yeah, it only takes, a couple days really to push through the whole set of Firiona Vey levels. I stay here probably until 46, at which point pretty much everything is dark green. And the only mistake I can really make at this point is not hiding a corpse or turning too tightly. If I use the wrong instruments, if I, only play one song, I only play Denon's because it lands more easily, I just kill the mobs more slowly. Like, that's not that big a deal. The only problem here is turning too fast. I just dinged 35, that's good. If you type any text, you will also break your strafe run here. So if someone sends you a tell and you're like, hey, what's up, man, you're dead. So you need to make sure to only respond to people, when you're actually not being chased by a bunch of monsters. You could even put up an AFK and say, like, I'm currently swarming. Could probably skip to the end at this point, where I will show off my looting macro that helps loot, which I don't know if I should even talk about it or recommend it because it's dangerous. There is a command /loot no drop that has 2 flags, always and never, and this is that special pop-up box that says, hey, warning, you're about to loot a no drop item, and you can make that box not appear so that you just automatically loot no drop items without being warned at all. And I don't recommend that the vast majority of the time. But if you know all you're doing is looting 1,000 Drollvard canines, then I actually think that setting /loot no drop always is a cool trick. But you really you want to be warned so that you don't accidentally ninja loot important gear or something later on, because you will straight up just loot, an important piece of raid gear or something, just by slipping a right click. So that's bad. Our dots here, they're not doing a crazy amount of damage. What's crazy about it is that they take no mana, and that they hit 25 mobs at the same time. Each dot only ticks for 15, 20 damage or whatever. But imagine just every 3 seconds casting something that does, 150, 300 damage over and over again. There's just the fact that you don't have to tank these mobs because they're just being kited the whole time, and the fact that you have no mana, and the amount of DPS you can put out by hitting 25 mobs at the same time, it just makes this, such an elegant, efficient way to level up. It just takes hand skill. So if I pull up track, you can see the list of mobs that are currently chasing me. So I still have 10 odd mobs to kill. And now he's fleeing. There we go. Alright, well, that's an example of a Firiona swarm kite. And I hope that explained my setup. There are reasons to do swarm kiting in different ways. In this particular situation, where you have a whole lot of room in order to kill the mobs, you're not so worried about how large your circle is. If you were in City of Mist, which is now banned from being swarm kited, if you're in City of Mist, there's not as much room to do this there. So you'd actually want like a J-Boots or even a Sopot tighter circle kite. But in Firiona, in my opinion, this is the most consistent way. It requires no setup or materials, and it's just the mobs are right there behind you. It's not a big deal. What else is there to say? When you hit W, you automatically stop looting a corpse. You tell your character to move forward and they abandon the corpse. So my hide looted flag on this two-line macro here, hide corpse none, hide corpse looted. The hide corpse looted flag means as soon as you stop looting a corpse for the first time, the body just disappears. And that means that you can sort of just right-click W, right-click W, right-click W, and loot really quickly. And that's, of course, relevant when you have 50 mobs you want to loot in like a minute. And I think that's about it for how I swarm kite. And hopefully this helps somebody. I get questions about swarm kiting pretty often, and I always say, yeah, I really need to make a video guide about that, and I guess now I have. So, by all means, hit me up on Discord if you have any questions. Yeah. My Discord handle is Mang Dynasty, MANGDYNASTY. And have a good time swarm kiting. It's kind of a blast. It's a little OP, and it's just super effective. Cool. Later, guys.